the biggest thing I see is all those people that come back every year that knew my dad and met him on their little trip down here back in the 90s, and had this experience, like all those little interactions, like adding up over year after year. It builds a culture and identity for one, your business, but also just like an area.
Welcome to the New Frontier Show. I'm your host, Jared Ravenscraft, joined by my co-host,
Joshua Ravenscraft. And we're sitting down with the trailblazers, the go-getters, and the creators, sharing stories from the journey and lessons learned along the way. Thanks for tuning in.
Thank you to our friends at ARH for allowing us to bring you this show for free. Appalachian Regional Healthcare, the healthcare system of Appalachia. Y'all, we have a very special guest today on the New Frontier Show. He's a small business owner. He's CBO, Chief Barbecue Officer. He has been a part of Miguel's Pizza for over 30 years, and he opened his own restaurant, Red Point BBQ, in Red River Gorge. He's a rock climber, a family man, just an overall cool dude. Y'all, let's get into it with Dario Ventura. All right. Yeah, I'm ready when you guys are.
Right back.
Let's shoot.
Yeah, so double kicking it back off here. So for the listener, we obviously, just like funny aside, we did this episode 3 weeks ago. Had some technical difficulties, but I think it's cool because I think we have a lot more to talk about in this episode. So I'm actually glad it kind of happened.
Yeah, some stuff has happened since.
Fate, you might say. Some might say fate. But 100%. Just like, so last week was July 4th. And, well, I guess, yeah, last Saturday. And last week we were with you, Dario, down in the gorge. And how was the July 4th event? I know you did fireworks at Red Point, and then you did a concert and fireworks at Miguel's. That was like a double back-to-back. Like, it must have been wild. The gorge must have been lit up like crazy.
Yeah, the gorge was. I mean, every 4th of July it's pretty wild, but last weekend with the heat, we weren't sure how it was going to turn out, but it ended up being a record attendance, and it was, there was, I don't know, it was probably 500, 1,000 people there, and the local honeys played, and they did a stellar show, and they enjoyed it, we enjoyed it, and it was a bit of a production, but at the end, I think it all worked out. We only had one disruptive drunk guy, but
only one. That's fine. And did you guys put a stage under, like, beside the basketball court?
yeah, we just hillbilly to stage up temporarily, and it worked great. I mean, filled the whole basketball court there, and yeah, it was perfect. I mean, it was 100. It seemed like 100 degrees. The band was sweating their brains off, but they powered through it and put on a good show, and we had a good time. Blew a lot of stuff up, and it was great. No complaints.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, speaking of the heat, we were also we can talk about this now because the collaboration that we're doing with L8 will already be out by the time this comes out, kind of the same time. But man, we were down there at Miguel's, dude, and it must have been 100 degrees. And just for the listener, like, we did a collaboration with L8, and we wanted to use Dario in our launch video, which we filmed, and Dario was unconscious from the basketball court. I don't think he missed a shot in the cameo video, but it was very, very hot.
A little lack of defense goes a long ways.
A lot of people might just think Dario's business owner, working in 2 restaurants, family guy. He's also a baller. He did a cameo in our L8 video and hit 7 for 7 from 3 with a drunk guy yelling in his ear. So that was cool. But thanks for doing that,
I had
Dario.
a good
day. Do you guys play a lot of basketball there at Miguel's court?
basketball there pretty much since I was about 5 or 6. But it's developed over the years. It used to be a wooden backboard with a crappy old basket that was all bent up, and gravel. We called it gravel ball, but yeah, we played on there my whole childhood, and I used to, I had my little trick shots and ways to con the climbers out of anything. But uh, as we got
Boom.
older and the business grew a little bit, we put in a proper basketball court. In fact, the goal was donated to us by the guy that randomly was some hiker that came down who owns like this basketball go company. And he donated that badass goal that we have currently. But yeah, it's I mean, basketball's been out dribbling out behind Miguel since I can remember.
That's that's like the most Kentucky way to do it. Just dirt, gravel, just a goal. That's awesome. But
That's all
we were
you
talking
need.
about the Fourth of July event you guys had. You guys, you did an event at Red Point as well, correct?
Yeah, yeah, a lot smaller and more, intimate. But yeah, it's like by Sunday, the last thing I want to do is light a firework. It was 100 degrees and sweating your brains off, and yeah, but I'm done with Fourth of July now. Thank God.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking. Were you the one lighting them off, Dario? Like you're the guy?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah. Me and three guys at Miguel's. So we had like we have I mean, we're safe about it. We got a little crew, and we got some loose rules, and we try not to blow each other's fingers or eyes out. But it's
were you shooting them
it's
over
a
across the road there?
yeah, oh yeah, they were going everywhere. But yeah, it's a good time. Fireworks have always been a part of my childhood and growing up there. People are always blowing up stuff and lighting stuff on fire. Just kind of a bunch of little renegades, I guess.
Are you like Danny McBride in Tropic Thunder with the switchboard setting them all off?
No, I'm not that technical yet, but someday maybe.
It looked, but it looked. I saw pictures and people sharing photos. Man, it looked super packed, and we were on the lake, or else we would jet down there to do
Y'all
it.
should have.
But I had a question. I had a question on the basketball. I should have asked you the day we were out there filming, but dude, it was so hot. I was like, we got to get out of the. We got to get inside. But you mentioned like the basketball teams. Does Miguel's have a basketball team, or is it like a team of climbers that you all play?
Well, we used to do this tournament. We all got too old, I guess, but we used to do this tournament, and we all played for what Miguel slash Red River Gorge. And then there's another place, Waterstone Outdoors in West Virginia, which is also an outdoor shop at the New River Gorge. And the owner of that climbing shop would produce a team every year, and then we'd meet every other year at home court. Um, and it was like a basketball tournament. It was a weekend thing. I think it was this series game. It was like best of a series. I think we did that for 8 years running, and I mean, it was a huge event, huge community event. We had sponsors. I mean, yeah, we had Adidas
Wow.
jerseys, yeah. And but it was just, it was it was actually good basketball. It was super entertaining to watch, and um, super aggressive and super physical, and people getting mad, and the whole works kind of like street ball style. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's been part of the climbing scene in the Kentucky, West Virginia, and Tennessee, and in this area. We live and breathe basketball, so it only comes
Oh
normal.
yeah, for sure. No blood, no foul.
Yeah, exactly.
I was gonna say we got to see that jersey, the Adidas jersey. You got to hang it up in Miguel's in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, retired.
You were telling us a story about like how climbers back in the day would like take L8 and take it like to wherever they were back to where they were from, and maybe could you retell that story of like L8 and climbers and maybe how that kind of kicked off back in the day?
Yeah, I mean, where Miguel sits used to be a wet or a dry county, so you couldn't buy alcohol there. Not that didn't stop anyone from drinking, but L8 was kind of like readily available there. And, these horde climbers that would come from all over different states, you'd be sitting, an L8, I think was 50 cents or something crazy, and you would, people would just,
Wow.
spend a few weeks or something at Miguel's, and, um, they'd try the local drink, like you do when you go anywhere, and they kind of get hooked, and, in a hot summer, it was the returnable bottles. It was a cool concept for them back then, because it's kind of the hippie community, the whole recycling aspect of it and the reuse. And it just kind of stuck. And then it kind of became this cult thing, like it was like, oh, you got to get a pizza in LA, and it became like this kind of combo that people got used to. And then, we'd have people from Michigan and Chicago that would show up on a weekend, and they would take like 5 or 10 cases back in the back of their truck back to their local gym. And some of them actually sold them at their gyms, and then would pack all the bottles back up
Wow.
and bring all the empties back next week. And then we would get our deposit on them. So it was a cool little scene of just, people embracing something that wasn't familiar to them. And then it seemed like every year as there seemed to be like some correlation as bigger L8 became. It seemed like the bigger Miguel's came through the years. And I don't know, I guess, but we're both on the same ride, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, when I think like it's just synonymous. When you think of LA in the gorge, you think of Miguel's. Like it's just such a trio.
It's like
That
peanut butter and jelly. You can't have one without the other. I feel like literally, I feel like it's like when you think of Miguel's, L8, Miguel's. It's like simultaneous.
Yeah, and the thing is back then it was just like, LA bought LA and all that stuff, even on our old, like if you dig on YouTube and stuff, like all these old videos that they were doing around Miguel's. And then the climbing world was going out into like the social media of the climbing world. And, the L8 plug was like everywhere just by coincidence. And no
yeah,
marketing, or it would just it happened. So that brand just became uh part of the whole culture for Miguel's and climbing at the gorge, for sure.
yeah. Thinking about those days, how obviously you grew up in Eastern Kentucky, right?
Yep.
What maybe rewinding it back? What were those early days at Miguel's like when it maybe wasn't as big and as widely known as it is now?
I mean, when I was born there, so it's it's hard to narrow down a time frame, but it really has always seemed to have the same spirit and feeling about the place. It's just literally grown since I was a child. Like when I was younger, and I was even when I was in my early teens, hanging out at Miguel's. Um, it was just a bunch of people hanging out all the time and just relaxing,
Mm-hmm.
and shooting the shit, and not really having from everywhere, and just every year that crowd of people that was hanging out there maybe would gain a few people, and then some years it'd gain like 50 people, and then it's just this very slow growth. So you felt completely a part of it, because it happened slow enough that it didn't really leave you behind. You were just hanging out, man, and doing whatever those people were doing, or they were doing whatever you were. If you had a party at your house in Lexington College, all the people staying at Miguel's that you knew would drive to Lexington and go to your party. Or if they were all hanging out at the campsite,
Mm-hmm.
you would be down there hanging out with them. So it made this really, organic family kind of atmosphere, with a bunch of strangers that were, you know, way more crude than you, and older than you, and like your crazy uncle kind of characters, and um,
Mm-hmm.
wasn't a lot of girls. Climbing didn't attract a lot of women back then, and if they did, they were highly sought after. Um, And
Yeah.
uh, yeah, you can imagine early '90s Red River Gorge wasn't the ladies' hotspot. But yeah, I mean, it was a very. I mean, I'm extremely fortunate to live that lifetime there in that place because it was. It was a constant exposure to anything in the world because you would be sitting around a campfire behind Miguel's from people, from Spain or Belgium or French Canadians or even people just from all over the states here. Lots of New Yorkers and people from out west. So you always just got like this really. You just always felt exposed to the world, even though you were just living in Slade, Kentucky, which to me I think was a blessing because as you know, sometimes we can Kentucky can kind of swallow you up. So it was really fortunate for me to have that opportunity and see what the world offers and just have a perspective not having the means to go find that perspective, but just having perspectives just hanging out in my backyard was
Hmm.
truly special.
Yeah, I agree with that. It feels like when you go to Miguel's or Red Point or one of your old spaces, there's people from all different areas and walks of life, climbers. I've been there. I've been at Red Point. There's people from Australia there. You can just tell by their accent. I've met people from all different states, shooting basketball at Miguel's. It's like this cool kind of cultural crossroads.
And the cool thing is, you can talk to them like they feel like you feel it. It feels like when you're in that space, at Miguel's or Red Point, like you're like, I can talk to you, and we can talk and like have a conversation. Feels like a safe spot, I guess you could say. And I think that's cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, last time I was in Red Point, there was definitely international folks there. And I'm like, this is so cool. They're in Eastern Kentucky.
I think Eastern Kentucky now we're kind of on the map, outside of the climbing world and outside of my world. Kentucky's starting to be recognized, and it's cool because now it's like everyone's like, oh man, that's cool, you live from Eastern Kentucky. But growing up, no one that wasn't a thing. But now with our music
Hmm.
scene and like everything that's happening with Kentucky, it's 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 I guess it's cool to be in the seats we are now. Now that it's fast forwarded.
Yeah, it's becoming a little more, I guess, talked about, or maybe social media is helping it, but definitely you, Miguel's, and like you all are a pioneer for that. So thanks for leading the charge.
I was gonna say my dad is, he's always been, when I was a kid, even me growing up, and hell, probably even my mom, probably had trouble seeing like the vision and the opportunity this place would lend us later in life. But just the struggles of an area that before it becomes something. He lived all through that, and we lived that through that as children. Like, and not to say it wasn't enjoyable and amazing, it was the whole time through. But I even remember as kids, people kind of giving my dad a hard time about like why he was trying to make a living off climbers and in Eastern Kentucky and before tourism was big and before all these things really took
Hmm.
off in the area. Obviously at the end of the day, he probably had the last laugh, but it's just funny. It's cool I guess it's cool to see that it paid off for him because he was the person kind of on the ground for a long time, just putting some effort into it. And, the biggest thing I see is, all those people that come back every year that knew my dad and met him on their little trip down here back in the '90s, and had this experience, like all those little interactions, like adding up over year after year. Like I think that, how that plays off in the long run is huge, like it builds a culture and identity for one, your business, but also just like an area. I think, when I travel, it's like I want to talk to the guy that owns the store. I want to have an experience in someone's place. Like, I mean, it makes it memorable for us, and it gives us some connection to an area that I think Kentucky is amazing at doing. I think there's so many genuine people in Eastern Kentucky that that that's why people are falling in love with where we live, is because there is so many people out here that are just, down to earth, hardworking, not full of shit kind of people that you get
Yeah.
it.
Heck yeah. Yeah, I'm glad you said that. It's you want to meet the business owner, the person who has their hands in the clay, and we'll get to this later because I want to talk about Red Point because we love it so much. But like you go by Red Point, I've been there before, seen you in the kitchen grinding. I've seen you back in the day shooting basketball at Miguel's. That's a kind of a rare thing today is to see folks. I mean, with a very successful business, like all hands on deck. So that's awesome.
Yeah, it comes with the deck of cards that you're playing. But it's unfortunately, I think it's maybe a family trait at this point, because my grandpa was the same way, and my dad is the same way, and my mother's like the worst of us all. She's like, we're on vacation, and she's not turned off. Uh, so
Yeah.
I always say it's a blessing and a curse. Almost, your own motivation will also work you to death, and my grandfather definitely worked himself to death, but obviously we wouldn't have what we did if he didn't. He was a janitor in a middle school, so it wasn't like he was doing anything glamorous, but he saved every penny. And I think a
Wow.
lot of people lose touch of how, success isn't just who we commonly forget that, like, it can be generations of people like struggling to try to get ahead. uh and my family, my grandfather, worked his whole life and had very little, like, what we would consider enjoyment. And my dad's, now, yeah, he worked his whole life too, and now he's seeing some enjoyment in his life. And unfortunately, now that all these people work so hard for so many, hundreds of years, it's just like, it's cool to
Mm-hmm.
see. And I think our generation thinks that, like, success is just like getting a job. And
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately, yeah, some people it can be, but sometimes it takes generations of people really trying hard. And I think that's what motivates us, because I'm trying to, like, I don't want to be the one that, I don't want to be the lazy guy in the family. So we're
Oh, dude.
Not at all, man. You're like a Hemi motor back there.
but I think it's one of those things. As you get older, you start to realize that, that there's a balance to it all, and trying to keep, just for your sanity in general.
Um, I wanted to ask because we're talking about some of the Miguel's early days when you were growing up. I remember you telling this. It's not like you just worked there your whole life. You had some other jobs that are fascinating. What were some of those early jobs that you had outside of Miguel's that like built your character?
Yeah, as a kid, you working for your parents is a constant, it's a battle, because it's your mom and dad telling you what to do, and it just hits different. So I worked at Miguel's for a long time, and then once I finally was able to save up some money and get a car, then I had this freedom, and then I was like, I grew up climbing there. I was homeschooled, and so with my sister and my brother later on, but so we were really bound and tied to Miguel's in a lot of ways. We didn't go to public school. We didn't, you know, we were just there all the time. So our life was very bound to Miguel's. So when I got licensed, I was biting at the bit. I was climbing a decent amount once I, like, got my license and got to college. So I was traveling when it came to, like, climbing type stuff. But as far as the daily grind, it was still just always Miguel's. Even when I was in college, I was, you know, driving home on the weekends to work at Miguel's, because honestly, they needed the help more than
Wow.
anything. Um, but there
Mm-hmm.
was some scenarios where I really pushed against, and uh, when I was 15, before I actually got my license, and I was boiling over of being a teenager and under my parents' rule, I was I don't know, just being a 15-year-old know-it-all, and my dad at the time,
Yeah.
uh, yeah, it's pretty normal. Um, because we met climbers that came from all over the country and all over the world, and you would become friends with these people. And one guy in particular, this guy named Larry Klein, the manager of this resort that I'd never heard of called the Greenbrier in West Virginia, near White Sulphur Springs. And he was a friend of my dad who came down and slept in a tent behind Miguel's through college. He was just a college, party guy kind of deal. Ends up to
Wow.
be extremely successful and run this huge resort. But he,
Wow.
and so when I was going through this moment, my dad reached out to me and said, "Hey, I got this kid." And so I found it. They drove me to West Virginia, dropped me off in White Sulphur Springs. I got a 2-bedroom apartment. I lived there for, I want to say, close to 6 to 8 months. I honestly, till I uh, got in trouble and you know was 15-year-olds in an apartment by myself, working 40 hours a week at this fancy resort, and had more cash in my hand than I'd ever known. What I besides selling cans at Miguel, collecting cans and recycling money,
Yeah.
and that's all really. So got myself in a little bit of trouble there, and then pretty much just pissed the money away, because I was 15 and didn't know what I was doing, and and kind of
Yeah.
hit rock bottom living by myself, and just trying to, not knowing everything, and having to figure it out. And finally, about 8 months later, I threw the towel in and said, "All right, come get me. I can't do that. I don't want to run away from home anymore."
Come get me.
Yeah, this isn't as cool as I thought it'd
Country
be.
roads, take me home.
Yeah.
The Greenbrier is wild because it's this huge resort in middle of nowhere, West Virginia. Super nice casino, golf courses, old vintage style resort, and they have like this underground bunker there that the government built for like a nuclear war or something like that. Did you ever get to
Mhm.
go inside the bunker there or anything like that?
Yeah, we get, as part of the orientation, they kind of give you the full gauntlet of things. It was, at that time it was like Sam Snead, and he was still alive, and he was like it's his private, you know, whatever you want to call it, golf club. And then it was, yeah, I mean, it was coming from Slade, Kentucky. It was a culture shock in its finest. I mean, it was the rich of the rich you were waiting on hand and foot, and it was yeah, it was a great perspective, only also just to see the other kind of flip side of the coin, because I'd grown up around climbers living off $5 in their pocket, and hardly any gas money, to being around people that were spending like $4,000 a night for a room, and just seeing kind of both sides of the coin. Yeah, seeing both sides of the coin was really good. Good for me, probably in the long run. Just especially going into the food world, and seeing kind of a little bit. It was good exposure.
Yeah, for sure. And you mentioned, I just want to jog it back a little bit. I think a cool part of your story that we talked about before is you did go to college, but it was kind of not the normal college experience, right? So you went to college, but you didn't study business or, go make you all didn't make a big like business plan to like, oh, we're going to build these businesses for the gorge. It's just based off like pure passion, hard work, and dedication to the community, which I thought was cool because I'm in a similar boat. Like, went to college for a couple hours and then just jumped on in what we're doing now. But I thought that was a cool point.
Yeah, I mean, I think college, I went to college for what, 5 years, and I mean, I enjoyed every minute of it, but it was, you know, the whole business aspect of it. I think they were teaching me, I guess I was immediately turned off by the cutthroat nature of it, and that's just not how I was raised and taught how a business ran. Um, and it's just, I think once I got to college, I started reflecting on back where I came from, and really, in hindsight, kind of growing appreciation for what I'd grown up with, and the opportunity that I had. It's always greener on the other side, and you step away, um, and even at that time, Miguel's wasn't like some huge successful business. When I was in college, it was kind of on the climb of growth, but it wasn't anything that somebody would ask you about, or it wasn't that crazy. On the climbing world, it always been kind of a bigger deal than the real world, I guess you could say. But yeah, it kind of just drew me back, I guess.
Yeah, that reminds me. We were just this past winter. We were in Jackson Hole skiing in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, and we were in this outdoor shop there, and they were like, "Where are you all from?" We're like, "Eastern Kentucky." I'm thinking like you guys not gonna know. Well, if I say Moorhead, you're gonna have no idea what I'm talking about. I said Eastern Kentucky. They said, "Oh, are you all near like Red River Gorge?" And I said, "I mean, yeah, it's relatively close to where we're from." And they said, "Man, there's this really cool shop down there. It starts with an M." Like, wait a second, maybe it's pizza. It's like I think the owner's name's like Miguel. And I'm like, talking about Miguel's Pizza in the Gorge. I'm like, yeah. And they start freaking out. They're like, "God, you guys are so fortunate to be so close to that." And I was like, "Hey, I know Dario." I didn't say that, but in my mind, I'm like, "Hey, I know I can text him right now if you want." But they were freaking out, and I thought that was cool. And this is like random as heck, but you mentioned Waterstone Outdoors. They just started carrying New Frontier in their shop, and dumb me, I'm like, "Oh, this is cool, another wholesale order to a business." And I started looking into it, and I'm like, "Man, they're a really cool local shop that's been seemed like they've been there for a
Mhm.
long time." And I started asking some people like
Yeah, yeah.
kayakers and stuff, and they're like, "Josh, like you idiot, they're the spot, like they're the outdoor
Mhm.
shop." So I thought that's a
Yeah.
cool connect. I can't think of the owner's name though. I think I just talked to the buyer, but that's a cool connect.
Yeah,
Small world.
yeah, the owners actually might have sold a few years back ago. But growing up, they were like kind of, the other. I've spent a lot of time at the New River Gorge and Waterstone Outdoors. Great people. Gene and Moore are the people that started it. And Kenny, who maybe still works there sometimes, but they're great community people at the New River Gorge. Just salt of the earth kind of people, and they climbing retail in itself is a hard thing to stick, and also just like in these locations, and they've been there as long as I think you know we weren't always a outdoor shop, but as far as I can remember, they've been there for as long as I know.
Yeah, like Josh mentioned that I've been in Reno, Nevada before at like some hotel that had a rock climbing wall, and there's these guys there, and they're asking the same question, like, "Where are you from?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm from Eastern Kentucky." Like, "Oh man, you live near the gorge," and it's just funny how that happens so many times. We'll be places and we'll tell people where we're from, and literally one of the first things that's brought up is Red River Gorge, Miguel's, the climbing scene. I guess I didn't really realize till a few years ago just how big the climbing scene obviously is there. It kind of blew me away.
We can kind of just look at like license plates as like even if you're not climbing, you're like families just coming to like eat in the gorge or visit. Like there's license plates from like all 50 states always. I always like looking at the license plates like, "Oh, Michigan, New York, California."
Yeah, I think Miguel's was fortunate enough that like I think you can reference it to like, like the skateboarding world or anything like that. It was just kind of like, ground zero for the sport climbing, especially. And it was like the base camp on the East Coast. You could say the Gunks was another one, or like out west, Yosemite, and these places. But they were like the very first places that grew these roots of rock climbing. And and as it played out years over years, like the gorge would get the best climbers in the world to come climb there, and people, you come become the best of your sport, and then you find these places all over the world, and the gorge was one of them. So then it got this like national attention, and because the rock formations and the steepness and the way that sandstone developed this really unique style of rock climbing here, it just with its natural beauty and what it naturally offers, just like if you travel, surfers will travel to like the North Shore, because this one wave. For
Mm-hmm.
climbers, the gorge was like that place, it was, that the place that you dreamed of going when you saved up enough money, and you would open the magazines in the late 90s and 2000s, and there would be photos of the gorge, and Miguel's and the
Mm-hmm.
whole scene. So the media just, portrayed us, and it's just kind of happened that, it's just the perfect storm, where everything kind of lines up just
Mm-hmm.
right. And there's Miguel's has just been always, through all of it, was really just kind of the launch pad for most of it. And you know, I joke, I have a friend who was like used to sell climbing shoes at Miguel's, and he was like a great salesman. Like he could sell anyone a pair of climbing shoes. And we always joked, we're like, man, you're
Yeah.
gonna you're gonna do great things someday. He was just a climber at Miguel's, and he ended up going to being like, I want to say he was like the guy that like he was like way up in Spotify. I'm pretty sure he was the guy that designed the algorithm for Spotify, and now is like,
Oh God.
he's the
Wow.
big, yeah, yeah, and he was like CFO for Spotify, and then like just like one of those people who's just hanging out at Miguel's, and now he's just like, and there's like so
Damn.
many stories like that of people that were just, companies that started out of there, and just, people sitting around with nothing other to do after climbing, just figuring their lives out, and hundreds of babies made, and future wives, it's just like,
It's a wild world, and like you'll never see a climber, I don't think, that's like not ripped up or like out of shape. So Josh, maybe we need to start climbing because like
Yeah, it sounds like we
everybody's
need to spend
jacked.
a little more time down there if Dario can handle us.
climbing is it's a great activity. I mean, it's cool too, especially of late. Like growing up, I was like the only climber that I knew, like from Eastern Kentucky, and lived around here. I didn't know anyone else that climbed that was local, but now, man,
Mm-hmm.
it's totally changed. There's tons of people I know that are like, one, so a lot of them have also moved here for it, but there's also just like a lot of kids that, were multi-generational Eastern Kentucky families that are, um, now, are like avid climbers in our community, which is really badass to think that it's kind of filtered back into itself.
And now, a word from our sponsors. L81, the official soft drink of the New Frontier Show. And I've got to say, I'm enjoying a nice, cold, refreshing Diet L8 myself right at this very moment. Thank you to all the folks at L81. Back to the show.
While we're wrapping the Miguel's kind of story, the other night Josh and I were sitting down eating dinner, and we watched, is it Stone Locals, the Patagonia documentary that you were in? That was awesome. Like, what was that like?
I was climbing a lot at the time, or I'd just been climbing a lot. I did some of the harder stuff I'd ever done in my life the year prior to that. And yeah, it was cool. I mean, it was the Patagonia people were, it was a real privilege just to be even asked to do something like that for such a cool company. And it was, you know, they we've had stories and videos over the years of Miguel's and our kind of our life. The original one was called Red River Ruckus by this guy Spencer Victory, and it was like cutting edge at the time, and it's a pretty funny one. But their thing was is they wanted to make a movie on just people that were had seen had a perspective on climbing over a long period of time. And if you know I guess I had been stuck in the same spot for a long time. So they wanted to do a movie about it. And my daughter has a rare liver disease, so that I think they saw that there was a story about her life and what she's always overcoming. So it was it was a real privilege, and it was fun to work with them. And it was way more professional than I realized. It was a full production team, and the movie ended up doing like recordly good for them. And so it was a fun experience, and hopefully people enjoyed watching it and getting a little. It was a glimpse of what we were doing. Into the Miguel's life
Mhm.
and the whole world that Miguel's was. But it's hard to put it on a camera like that.
Yeah, I mean, we thought you did a great job, and didn't know your daughter was going through that. So that's, I mean, it's just a testament to you all, like the strength it takes to not just run a business, but be all in and then go through that. That was wild, and probably a lot more professional than New Frontier rolling up with one camera guy in the 1,000-degree summer heat. You know.
We didn't have a Sprinter van. We just had a 99 Jeep. 99. Yeah. Two-door Jeep, man.
No, no, I like it small town like that.
We're getting there. I loved all the Super 8 footage they mixed in to that Stone Locals doc. That was so cool. Like all the old footage. But yeah, we thought you did great. I was like, that's cool.
There's piles of that old footage and videos and stuff, because it was like all these people from all over just documenting because, for them, it's like their vacation, it's their trip, and so lots of photos, lots of documenting and you know, there's probably so much stuff out there.
Maybe we should all work on a future
Yeah,
movie.
there we go.
What are we thinking, guys? Let's just go ahead and get this one done here.
Patagonia rolls up in a Sprinter van, lots of cameras. New Frontier, we've got our guy BC with one camera, rolling out of the Jeep. But yeah, no, it's cool.
We were watching that, and that's probably a good segue to chat about Red Point, as so we don't get too extended on our time here. There's always so much to talk about because we love the Gorge and Miguel's Red Point area so much. There's like 1,000 questions, but I know you get asked all these probably 100 times too. So thanks for answering these like over and over. But we got to talk about Red Point, obviously, kind of like the birth of it, and maybe like leading up to it. What are some events that happened like leading up to Red Point?
Yeah, Red Point was it was a. Oh, let's see. I don't know. It was an idea, like most things are. They start out as an idea, and then it was talked about somewhat. We had purchased a piece of property. Honestly, not for a restaurant because they had a house on it. We were going to remodel the house, and I had one of my good friends, Pete, was saying, "Man, it would be cool if there was a barbecue place or something." And I don't remember the exact details, but I was like, "Hey, I want to open one," and he was psyched to help me out, which is so important when you have people around you that are willing to at least throw their time towards you. And it just kind of grew off of that. It was during COVID, so I spent 2 years remodeling this old barn that was full of chickens and horses, and I mean, definitely was not a restaurant in any form. But the setting was cool, and the building had character, and so it was just just like kind of my dad did, and I had done with my whole life with my dad. Just figuring it out, and kind of trying to craft something that people would appreciate. And so, we finally got the building, ready to open, and the menu was small. And I remember our first night was a complete disaster, but in a great way, and um, just learning it. A lot of the food that we put on the menu was food that we just grew up cooking at our, at home, or like our sweet potatoes. That's something I always made at our house, or even our beans. But it was just like one of those things, kind of trial by error, and you just, I don't really like that. I, for
Mm-hmm.
cooking, I think a big important part of it is like being able to taste good food. I think a lot of people have a good hard time knowing the difference between what's good and bad in food, and don't really have a real keen taste. And I think if you're going to open a restaurant, you better know what at least good food. You might not be able to make it, but you should at least be able to know what it tastes like. Step one.
Yeah.
So we just would, make stuff and taste it and be like, I don't like that, or I like this. And, just being patient with it, and figuring it out as you go, and not doing norms, not like following any rule book or of how it should be, like, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
the biggest thing we got for years is that we didn't have like bread, and at barbecue place, generally you get a slice of white bread, or you get a roll or something, and we're like, no,
Yeah.
we're not doing that.
Love it.
um, so yeah, and it developed. I've always a girl that works for me currently, Shelby, and through the whole process, we've just had really good people in the kitchens with us, helping us out, and the same with Miguel's. And my brother is now come back, and the reason I even have the opportunity to do Red Point in the first place is that my brother kind of came back from school. He actually was an educated man and went and got his degree, like me and my sister failed to do. And he came back, and now he's he's the GM at Miguel's down there, and so he works full time there, and he's doing an exceptionally great job. And that, because of that, it's given us opportunity to, I made pizza in that kitchen, for 20 something plus years. And and when it was, wasn't easy, when we had 4 deck ovens with no AC unit, and it would be 105 degrees, and
Oh man.
you were just,
Gosh.
you'd sweat so much on a oven shift that your shirt would be like flaky from all the salt that would collect from sweating through it
Oh
so much.
Lord.
And yeah, I mean, it was like a battleground, especially in the late '90s and early 2000s. Once Miguel's really
Man.
kind of just blew up overnight. We were very. I mean, we used to have our original oven held 3 pizzas, and it would be like a 45-minute wait, on a Saturday night.
Wow.
And sometimes like 2 hours when we first started getting busy at Miguel's, it was like 100% normal. If you came there on a Saturday night, you would wait 1 to 2 hours for a pizza.
It's well worth the wait.
Yeah.
It was all just climbers sitting there. Yeah, you would just be sitting there, and climbers wouldn't care. They would just get used to it. So they would like, they'd be car camping anyways. They'd be like making guac and chips or salsa and chips, and like sitting around, like pretty much providing their own appetizers. And it was, because they knew there was just like ma and pa back there in the oven that held 3 pizzas. So that, it was real low key. And obviously now it's like, I don't know, we could cook like 70 pieces at a time. So it's like completely different, but it definitely, all that, you know, lifetime of restauranting there, when Red Point came forth, uh, didn't seem that crazy of a task. Just like, oh, we get to build a restaurant the way we want it, with the right amount of seating, and it just seems, like an easy task. Now that it has become successful, now it's the hard task.
So now you're the CBO, the chief barbecue officer. Are you like on a day-to-day basis, you guys are open at Red Point Thursday to Sunday. Are you smoking meats like every day? What's that grind look like at Red Point?
Well, it goes off. Unfortunate for me, one of the girls that works for me, for Sabrina, is taking over a lot of the, well, I guess they call it pit master duties in the barbecue world. But it starts. I go in on Wednesdays and do a batch, and then we'll smoke starting Wednesday morning. And so I'll kind of tee off the smoke, and that starts at, like, I don't know, noon on Wednesday, and pretty much the smoker stays full from Wednesday till well, yeah, about midday Sunday afternoon. And so yeah, it's 25 briskets a night, and um, for 17 hours. So yeah, it's a full-time job for a person just to be smoking all the.
I was gonna say, even the wood. I remember seeing this on your all's Facebook. I mean, you're chopping down the wood too to put in the grill to smoke the meat. It's like full circle of life.
Yeah. Well, fortunate for us, that property just randomly has this huge hickory grove on it. So it's kind of hard to buy it when you have it right out your back door. So yeah, we harvest the hickory off the property, and it keeps the smokers running. The smokers we have are super efficient on wood, so that helps. So we don't actually go through a ton of wood like a normal, like, pit smoker would, where it goes through a lot of wood. But yeah, we make it work.
It was like maybe 2 years ago or 3 years ago. One of our buddies, Walker White, that lives around the gorge, he said, "Guys, you have to go try Red Point. It's the best food ever." And thank God I listened to him. And we went on like a Friday night. You guys are slammed. And I was just blown away at the quality of the food. And obviously, if you go there, you'll know right away. I got like ribs, cornbread, and mac and beans. The cornbread's
Oh
sensational.
man,
But I've got to ask this question because the mac and beans are my favorite, and I think about them all the time. Whose idea was that to make that a menu item, macaroni and beans mixed together?
Uh, I think it was my idea. I can't. It's been a while,
Boom.
but I remember when I first put it on the menu, and I told them, uh, they were like, "What are you doing? No one's gonna order mac and beans." And I was like, "Dude, I don't know. It's pretty good,"
Oh yeah.
and now it's like super popular for us. But it was funny when it first got brought up. Everyone was like kind of rolling their eyes. They're like, "Whoa, okay." But and now it's like, you know, it's like our go-to snack when you're like in the middle of the heat. You just hit that and you're ready to go.
Yeah, I mean, I think about it all the time. I'm thinking about it right now. We wanted to go last weekend, but we got to get down there soon and get some.
Dario, do you all still uh, do like produce or source like food from Lionheart local? I think I saw a post. Maybe you got some tomatoes, but it could have been from like last year for a salad. But I just think it's cool that you all also source like a lot of vegetables and things from local places and local farms, and you can taste it. Obviously, it's so fresh.
Yeah, I mean, for a small business, it's always hard for you to do something that makes your job harder because you're always kind of running behind. But the local produce situation for Eastern Kentucky is exceptional. And in over the years, farmers have made it very accessible to a business and very convenient to local businesses to acquire local vegetables, with farmers markets, or even just business to farm kind of connections. So yeah, I mean, in Miguel's, we have a farmer from Menifee County that grows all our peppers, cucumbers,
Wow.
red. Um, Draw jalapenos, basil, tomatoes, and we buy everything that he produces. And the same goes for Red Point, and it's seasonal. Obviously, like caprese salad will be coming into our menu, and that's from a gardener who buys the or no sells us the tomatoes. And Same with like corn on the cob or any of those stuff that, I mean, I just bought cabbage from a guy in Estill County and bought all the cabbage he had for the year. And that's like enough cabbage for like 2 weeks
Wow.
for us. But
Wow.
it's just like, yeah. And the thing is like, yeah, the product is always better. Um, and it's, when you really break it down with these food delivery companies, the price is not, it's not that much. There's not a huge gap in the price like it used to be. The local farmer is competitive now. I don't know if that's to blame for inflation or what the deal is, but people should really take advantage of it because you're just getting a better product. Then that's all it comes down to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I got to ask too. I remember on our first conversation, I was like, dang it, I did not ask Dario this. Now, I've been wanting to know, you're so busy. You don't have, I mean, to even be on this podcast with us is like, you're so busy as is. Thank you for giving us time. But like between running multiple businesses, being a family man, what are some things, maybe other than climbing that you find that you can like reset? Is it working out or maybe going on a hike or maybe you don't? Maybe you're so busy you don't.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that used to be obviously climbing has always been kind of the staple of my life, and I'd travel all over the world to go climbing, and that would be kind of your escape. Um, I
Hmm.
enjoy running. I grew up a competitive runner, so I still enjoy doing that. Obviously, basketball's a big thing for me.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, it's or just hanging out and just chilling. The busier you get, the more you appreciate those moments. But getting out in the gorge, whatever opportunity is always, it's a good time.
We have a small business, obviously, in New Frontier. You're in multiple businesses. What's your favorite part about having a small business, or just is it like in that hustle? What's your favorite part of it?
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like that answer changes weekly,
I agree.
but I would say, everyone says, "Oh, small business, oh, you have so much versatility and you have all this, you can do whatever you want," kind of stuff. And I don't know if I necessarily agree with that. You could do whatever you want if you have a small business. If you don't care about the business, then yeah, you can probably do whatever you want. But you know, it, you know, it, yeah. I mean, I think the nice thing in my case is that I do get to work with my family a lot, which is super nice. You get to spend time with your family and it doesn't feel forced. You're just like, okay, this is what we're doing today, and we're gonna, so the family business thing has been really nice. And in my case, just being here and just seeing the growth and the change, and um, even just how you change with a business and how you look at things now compared to how you used to look at them. I think my dad has always had a great perspective on everything and kind of guided us through a lot of it. But the small business thing, it becomes who you are. It becomes your life. It becomes your identity. Um, and if you can ride that with people you like, especially your family, and everyone gets along, it's fun, man. It's a
Hmm.
privilege. And um,
Yeah, and that reminded me, like over the years and even today, Miguel's and Red Point. I mean, you all had to employ hundreds and thousands of local people and provided job opportunities to people in the gorge, and I think that's so important too. And everybody's also nice; they're great employees. Um, that's something that you definitely feel and recognize when you go to each spot. That's like, wow, this really great employees. You can tell from the top down. But also, like, there's always highs and lows in business and stuff. And this is probably a hard question to answer too. But is there a is there like a moment or a story from either place, Miguel's or Red Point, where it's like that was so cool, or that was so sick, or that person came by? I know over the years I've seen like photos of people like either at each location, famous people, but is there one that sticks out to you?
Famous people. Ooh. Well, I mean, in the climbing world, back in the day, we had this thing called the Rock Trip, and Chris Sharman, these climbers that were huge at the time, came to the gorge, and for us, that was kind of a big deal. In aspects of other famous people in the world, I mean, it's cool that Tyler Childers comes into the plate in both of our places and eats just like Joe Smo off the street, for years. And it's there's been, I mean, the guy, what's oh, now I'm on draw blank. He's big, I'm his biggest fan now.
Are you talking
So
about Jared?
30-second
Yeah, right.
Jared Leto came in. That was cool because he climbs,
That's the one I saw. Yeah.
so it was cool that, yeah. And then over the years, I'm trying to think, been some other people that have come in there that, I don't know, and it
That's
just
what I'm
makes
saying.
you.
There's so many. Yeah.
Yeah, over the years, it's been a lot of people, so it's been fun, and it's cool. It's cool that people see your little place, and you can share that with them. And when I travel, I want to be that. I want to see one else's spot, and it's fun when people appreciate yours.
Obviously, we're in July, summer of the gorge. It's hot season. People, people running wild. People climbing. People hiking. Cars coming from every state. What are some, events coming up? Maybe this summer, this fall in the gorge that um, people should keep an eye out for.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of stuff kind of slows down for the summer, and then fall kind of ramps back up. Miguel's personally does a big Fourth of July party that's really fun. You want to see the real crazies come out. And then the weekend before that, there's a climbing event down here, Rocktoberfest, which is a super fun time, especially if you're not familiar with rock climbing. It's kind of a good way to get exposed to the scene and the whole show in one weekend type deal. And then uh, and late, I guess end of November for Thanksgiving, we do a big meal at Miguel's, like a family type dinner, and we don't cook pizza. We cook turkey, and that's probably my favorite holiday because it's real personable, and everyone comes in the kitchen, and it's just kind of a good closing of the season type thing. Come December, everyone leaves. Climbers go, tourists don't come as much, um, so it's just kind of a changing of the seasons, which is really nice. It always kind of puts a closure to my year. And you know, Miguel's used to be closed through the winter. Growing up, 3 months we would close down, and so my whole life, winters always kind of felt like this time of rest, revival type
Yeah.
feeling.
Mm-hmm.
Now we're open full time, but it's a nice. I still look forward to the winters. Weirdly, weird thing to say about Kentucky, but I
Yeah.
do.
What would you say is your favorite time in the gorge? Is it fall?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I really do like the spring. I
Okay.
I like the spring. I shouldn't be saying this on the radio, but I like the spring because there's less people. Uh and and the beauty and the growth, the gorge in the spring changes every day. It's something new, and the colors change every day. Um the days are long, and I really do like the spring in the gorge. I like being out in the woods when it rains, and it gets foggy,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it really does have its beauty. I mean, obviously the fall is great, but I'd say I'm gonna lean towards spring.
Good answer. I've got to ask this because I'm just curious because I always see you back in the kitchen at Red Point grinding. And sometimes I feel like you've had an AirPod in maybe or you're listening to something. But what do you listen to like when you're on the grill or working music wise?
It changes by day because Sunday we try to keep it a little more church friendly,
Yeah.
and not as aggro. Sometimes I come there, I'm like, no one wants to go out to dinner and listen to the Pixies. Just chill, man.
Yeah.
uh, So we, I like some, Texas country, Charlie Crockett, or any of those type artists are fun. They got a little beat to them and keep you moving in the kitchen. but it changes every day. The battle over the ox cord in the kitchen is always it's a true thing, and everyone's going to judge everyone, so you just kind of ride with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was eating in Red Point a couple weeks ago, and whoever was on Ox was definitely in a good vein of music because I was like, man, I think it was might have been Sister Golden Hair, the band America, and I was like, whoever's on Ox, keep it
Yeah.
rolling, baby. That's great.
Yeah. And then, yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of fun when it's a restaurant too, to not keep it like some replay
Yeah.
CD of some genre. You know, just let it be what it is going to be.
You
So,
guys aren't. Yeah,
yeah.
you guys aren't ripping Nickelback on repeat in there and Creed.
Only at closing time if we got to get run out.
Oh God. I have one more. Just a little like quick critter. What? Let's see. Like maybe what is your? I won't say Appalachian, but like, what's your favorite thing about like being an Eastern Kentuckian or being a Kentuckian?
Well, I mean, for years, I think what was so great about when you travel and being in Eastern Kentucky is that no one knew anything about you. You could make up your own story, and no one knew anything about Eastern Kentucky. So, um, it was kind of cool to be the unheard of one. Where you get fried chicken and bourbon, and the rest is just kind of unknown,
Mm-hmm.
and especially Eastern Kentucky. And I always kind of thought that was cool. That we were just and you get all these stereotypes of us, and you're like, all right, is that what you think? And sometimes to prove them wrong, and show them. I always heard growing up, you're like, man, especially when you'd have all these visitors from everywhere else, and like, man, Easter cookie is so cool. Like they would almost be shocked, and people are so nice. And um, I like that we're a sleeper. I like that we got our dark valleys and there's just a lot of unknown about Eastern Kentucky. But the beauty of it is that everything that is there is usually amazing, and people cherish it, and it's genuine, and they're good, hardworking people. And it's cool that now the rest of the world's meeting them and finding out, and uh, that's awesome. It's a good place to be.
Great
What a
answer.
hell of an answer, man. I'm gonna start clapping for that one. That's a great
That's it.
answer.
Oh,
Kentucky tourism is going to take that and put it on a clip. But man, you've been so kind to take some time with us today and do a repeat episode. And Josh and I are big fans of yours and your families, and you guys and you are like the people we look up to as a small business, and just like the way you all grind. And I'm not gonna hype you up too much, but yeah, we think that, and we appreciate you, man.
no, it's been a privilege to tell our story. I mean, I really like talking about my dad. His life. It could be its own. That could be a whole nother story. Just telling like what he did to get here. And um, he's like one of the coolest dudes I know. So it's fun to talk about him, and what he's done there. And it's a privilege that we're getting the opportunity to carry it on. I mean, I mean, you guys get it. Multi-generational families. It's not easy, but it's still fun.
Mm-mm.
Hundred
Oh yeah.
percent. And while we're here, just like the last 30 seconds, just to shout your dad out. Did he didn't he move from Connecticut to Kentucky?
Yeah, when my dad, well, technically he moved from Portugal with my
Whoa.
grandmother when yeah, my grandmother, who actually lives right behind Miguel's, is 97 years old, Maria Ventura, and she's Portuguese. She barely speaks any English. But she brought my dad over when he was 5 to New England, and then he grew up in New England area working with his dad as a janitor in the I guess it was a middle school there. And then when my dad saved
Wow.
up enough money, they moved to Kentucky, and wanted a partnership to buy where Miguel sits in right now. But yeah, I think it was like 10 people want in on like a piece of property for $50,000, I think is how much that valley was
Whoa.
or something. But yeah, but they made it, and that's how they ended up here.
That's wild because I was listening to another podcast just as a fan of you all, and I didn't know your dad was an artist. And did he the Miguel's famous logo? Was that something that he designed?
It's at Miguel's or on a T-shirt or anywhere around there. There's a 100% chance my dad drew it up, sketched it up. Yeah, if you go to my parents' house, it's like it's just it's the house they built when they moved here in 1983, and it's still not finished. I like to tell them all the time, but and it's full of everything. Every one of the doors in the house he's hand carved, include
Wow.
just like the front of Miguel's ones. And his artwork's all over the country. Honestly, it's been bought up by friends over the years and climbers that have fallen in love with the place and grew friends with him, and then they would reach out. He's done hand carved doors for houses where he shipped them there, and art pieces. I mean, someday I'd like to, like have a art show for him in Lexington or something, because the stuff he's done and he has, and God, just the stuff he has still in storage is quite remarkable, I think, for
Wow.
for the art world and what he's created. But yeah, the Miguel's logo,
Wow.
all hand drawn. The door also all hand carved. He actually carved that in Miguel's, like while he was working behind
Wow.
the counter. So yeah, it's his artistic touch to the business in general over the years, I think, is really it's been awesome and a real privilege, because it just makes it genuine. It's putting a chisel to it. It's cool.
Heck yeah.
That's incredible.
Well, you've been super kind with your time, man. We'll let you get back to vacation, take some time off because you're grinding all the time here in Kentucky. So
Hey,
we appreciate
and people listening too, by the time this is hitting your radio in the car or in your headphones, wherever you're listening, you can see Dario draining 3-pointers on a basketball court in our collaboration with L8.
Nah.
So now you heard it here first.
Oh boy.
The kid is on fire,
Yep.
Dario Ventura. But yeah, man, thank you for your time.
Everyone,
This is fun.
no problem, guys. Everyone gets lucky every once in a while. I'm glad you guys caught it.
L8's,
But,
L8's favorite son.
Man, I'm not lying. I could have gassed him up even more on the food at Red Point. It's so good, and we didn't even really get to talk about it too much, but the whole menu's awesome. He created just so much good food, and if you've never been to Red Point, you have to go. It's on a really cool piece of property. We didn't even get to talk about that.
Oh, there's so much. You could do a saga on Dario, his family, their businesses.
They deserve a lot of that credit for, like, I think, making the gorge cool, making it a destination, which, like, we built a lot of the brand on. And it was really cool. He did a cameo in the L8 video that we made.
Yeah, spend 30 seconds and tell the people listening what that collab is and kind of what the plan was, the dream to do that
Yeah.
shoot.
So we were lucky enough to collab with L8 on a 100-year anniversary merch line. Very exclusive merch, from denim shirts, tech shorts, camo trucker hats, other types of hats, cool graphic tees, and some camo items and belt. There's so many items that we designed, and we wanted to make a Kentucky collage of, like, places and people that we think of. When you think of Kentucky and, like, L8 country, the mantra they have, one sip and you're there. I think of Miguel's. I think of being in the gorge, and Dario was nice enough to make a cameo and drain some jumpers for us in that video. So
Yeah,
excited to
this
see
was a dream podcast guest. Heck of an episode. I can't wait to already get this one edited and spin it back just to go hear it again for myself.
thank you all for listening to this episode of The New Frontier Show. It wouldn't be possible without y'all, so we appreciate you listening, and we'll see you next time right here.
And if you enjoyed yourself, please do us a favor and like, subscribe, tell a friend. And we'll see you next time wherever you find your podcast.